Open your mind. Unfold your heart. That's what we're here to do today. So, I want to talk about this community, the people sitting in this room and those who come to the various services and those who are visiting, how important it is that we're together. Because what we are together is a group of people who are able to focus their attention together on Spirit. And that is a powerful thing to do. It's a powerful thing to be a part of. And I was reminded of this in an unusual way, at least for me, this week when I was coming into the office early. I was standing at the front door fumbling with my keys, and Donna Starr, our logistics manager, suddenly opened the door for me, and she said, "Welcome to the Center for Spiritual Living, where all doors are opened for you." So that's what we're doing for each other, opening doors and walking through them. In some way, it was as if Spirit knew I was standing there and sent help just when I needed it. At least I can imagine that so. And does this really happen a lot, I ask myself, and I don't see it. This talk is about that process of what we're seeing and what we're not seeing. So the title of my talk is from a chapter in Living the Science of Mind, and it is, How Does God Know What I'm Doing? And it was written by our founder, the founding teacher is Ernest T. Holmes, and Ernest said, he begins with a story. He says, frequently people ask, why should God be interested in my little affairs? I remember once speaking to one of our trustees who had been ill for several weeks. I asked him why he had not requested treatment. He said, I don't wish to bother God with such a small thing. Have you ever thought that? Is there something in your life right now? Or is there some regular pattern or habit you have which says, well, I'll just put up with this. I don't want to take the attention of the infinite or take my attention away from other more important things and ask for help. Do you say, no, this is too petty? If that's so, then you're not actually paying attention to cosmic laws, the way the universe operates. And that's what Ernest says. He says, that's very natural to think that. And yet, all of this understanding that I'm not going to ask Spirit for help is an ignorance of how Spirit works, the cosmic law. By the way, when I say God, please do fill in Spirit, the One, reality, Buddha, Allah, whatever you call the one thing that gives rise to everything, that everything is that one thing in an infinite number of forms. So, Ernest writes, we might ask, is there more life in an elephant than in a flea? Or from the standpoint of the infinite, is a giant sequoia of more importance than a rose blossoming by the wayside? Of course not. There is no big and no little, either to the divine presence or to the law which governs everything. It really does seem true that there is something which is creating everything, that it really doesn't have the ability to only give part of itself. It's one thing. It has to give all of itself wherever it gives itself. And everything is it in form. So all of God lives in everything and in everyone and in you. That's a rather radical teaching that we do here. But nonetheless, Spirit is giving all of itself all the time. So Ernest goes on to say, is not the rose rooted in the same soil in which the tree is rooted? It is merely a different type of manifestation of life, taking a separate form, but rooted in a common unity. We should eliminate the ideas of big and little or hard and easy because they do not exist in the creative mind of the universe. We all come from the same source. We are that source taking form. We are all made of the same substance, which is spirit. And therefore, we are all family. We are all part of that same one family, which is the life of the one lived in infinitely different forms. All things, all forms, all people, big and little, easy to like and difficult to get to know. These are all our family. Now, it's going to get a little technical here, so hang on. In the creative mind of the universe, which is the one mind, the one itself, which we refer to as the creative mind of the universe, things exist as ideas. This is an old idea, actually, that everything is ideas, and that ideas, and it is the nature of the law of mind to cause these ideas to take forms native to such ideas. That is, whatever idea is in the mind of the one, then that idea takes form in line with with the idea in the mind of the one. All ideas are brought into form or fruition through the one medium. Now, the first thing to remember is that each one of us, each one of you, is a perfect idea in the creative mind of the universe. By the way, you've always been there. You are immortal. And you are eternal. So what it is that the divine one in the creative mind of the universe has an idea of you and of me. It is the perfect you and me. And its tendency is to take form. That's the law of mind. That's how that mind works. So that's how we describe it in this kind of tradition. So we've got spirit creating by, if you will, knowing what it wants to create, and then by knowing, that mind causes itself to take form. He goes on to say, Ernest does, the law always takes the form we give it. We may call it big or little or important or unimportant, but the law as such knows nothing about comparative degrees. The very nature of this law is such that it cannot say, I am big in one place and I am little in another. It can only say, I am. And that also I am, including what we call big and little, as it automatically flows through everything, taking the form of all things. This one is flowing through you right now. It's actually more accurate to say it is flowing as you, because there's nothing in you that is not it. So this one is flowing into form right now in this room, and it looks like you, and it looks like me, and the chairs and the room, etc. This idea of spirit being everywhere, well, it changes your understanding of what things actually are. People used to ask Ernest if he prayed for everything. They said, do you pray for everything? Even a loaf of bread? And Ernest said, look, for spirit, for the one, to make a loaf of bread is as difficult or easy as to create the piece of a planet. He said they're equally the activity of spirit. And so if I ask for a loaf of bread, I'm not asking for anything less or more than if I was asking for the piece of a planet. Spirit can produce both and will when those ideas are called into form. So, he said, if the bread is being called for in my life, I take it seriously. It's spirit calling for itself to create. And so, I do pray for everything. Not too long ago, I was in Ashland at a talk like this, and the minister said a very interesting thing. She said, if you don't really believe something's possible, you won't actually ever see it. And you certainly won't put energy into it. For instance, she said, if you didn't believe you could fly, then how much energy would you put into actually trying to fly? So it was an interesting example, but it hit me. And this is how it hit me. I realized that I didn't actually believe in a world that could work for everyone. I didn't believe in a world that could be completely at peace and everyone in it at peace. And that kind of struck me. Like, am I just deflecting this idea and saying, well, no, it's impossible, so let's go on to something more serious? But I realized in that moment that I no longer could let myself unconsciously just cross that out. Are there ideas like that for you? I'm talking big ideas and small ideas. That a loaf of bread is spirit responding to you? Or that the peace of a planet, a world that works for everyone, has been called for in this world by you? And that you giving your serious attention to it brings it into form? Basically, I don't know how to change my mind about much. You know, I have these ideas, they're there, I believe them. But what I do know now is that I can begin to allow that they might not be true. That's really what you have to do, is begin to introduce some kind of doubt that what you're so certain about, consciously or unconsciously, just might not be so. So, Ernest kind of capsulized all this in a quote of his from Emerson. Emerson said, "There is no big and no small to the soul that maketh all. Whence it cometh, all things are, and it cometh everywhere." So this is what's going on. This is the creative mind of the universe. It's doing this all the time. So what's the problem? The problem is we don't see it. Just like I didn't see that Spirit was moving when Donna came to the door for me, because I wasn't looking for it. What's stopping us is we think comparatively. We say, this is easy for Spirit, that's hard. We say, that's a big thing to create, versus it's pretty small, who cares? Or that there's problems. This thing is a problem, or it's not a problem. Ernest Holmes is teaching us that God doesn't see anything, including you, beginning with you, as small and insignificant, easy or hard, big or small, a problem or not. Everything is its creation, and they are all the thing itself flowing automatically into form. Ernest tells us to stop using comparative thinking. Comparatives do not belong to the universe. They are merely differentiations in our own mind. Dropping them completely out of our thought, we contemplate neither the big nor the little, but the thing itself taking a particular form. I have to do this, but just notice the person you're sitting next to is actually Spirit taking form at this moment. I kind of got into what happens when we don't notice that what's happening and put our own labels on it. I was at another workshop, and there happened to be, one of the evenings of the workshop, two writers from Saturday Night Live. And they put together a little skit, which still stays with me. I love it so much. What they decided to do was this was a spiritual workshop. They decided to channel, one of them was going to be a channel, and he was going to channel the Antichrist. He was going to channel the devil, let's say. And this is how it went. he said, so he was up on stage, with his eyes closed, and he opened his eyes and he said, "Oh, am I in California? It's so bright here. Everybody's shining. I just can't stand it. Oh my gosh, you got to help me, or I can't stay here." So he says, "Look, what I want you to do is this. Turn to the person on your right and say, 'I'm better than you.' And now turn to the person on your left and say, 'I'm less than you.'" He said, and when people did that, he said, "It's so much dimmer here." So what we're talking about now is what dims the light in which we see. We turn that light down when we compare. As Ernest said, a great load will drop from our mind if we stop thinking about bigger, little, and harder and easier. Ernest says, what you need to do is start holding all of your ideas with equal lightness. That is, you have ideas, you're not going to get rid of them, but nonetheless, don't be convinced that there are some of them that are inherently hard to do and some are easy to do. Hold them lightly. We're asked to do this, even though the world will tell us, "Hey, look, this is harder, obviously." But you don't know that. It's Spirit that's doing everything. Therefore, we must remove from our consciousness the obstruction, which is the unconscious resistance created by ideas like big and little, hard and easy, problem and no problem. Well, it's interesting because as I put this talk together, I realized that I have a war with spirit going on. And what the war is, actually, this is a former chapter of the war, but here it is. It is that I have a problem with no problem. So I don't, right? So when that phrase first came into being, I thought I would walk up to somebody and say, "I want this, need this," or whatever. And they'd say, "No problem." And I'd say, "I didn't say it was a problem. I didn't actually want, how did it become a problem? Am I a problem to you?" I went on, right? So my daughter called me on this, and she said, "What are you doing?" And I recognized that I was making a problem out of no problem. And that is really that kind of war with reality that one can have. That one can say, "No, it shouldn't be that way." Or, "What does it mean? What are you trying to say to me?" It's not a very happy way to go through the world. In Science of Mind, we say that each person uses that same law of mind that Spirit uses. And when you put your ideas into words, which is our form of prayer, treatment, then we get this. Just a second, where we are. He said, this is how Ernest says we should play. "Conceive of your word as being the thing. See the desire as already accomplished fact, and rest in perfect confidence, peace and certainty, never looking for results, never wondering, never becoming anxious, never being hurried or worried." And then he goes on to say something interesting. This is in the Science of Mind. "Those who do not understand this attitude may think you are inactive, but remember, to him who can perfectly practice inaction, all things are possible." Now, this Thursday, I'm beginning a class on the Chinese spiritual tradition of Taoism. And in Taoism, they're teaching something very similar to many science mind concepts. And one of their main teachings is non-action. Inaction, not acting. And it doesn't mean not doing anything. It means not putting your ideas about things on top of it, therefore making it hard or easy. Just to act without those concepts, those assumptions. This kind of thing, this leads to, as he said, an attitude of resting in perfect confidence in life, not making life a problem to be solved. Taoism, by the way, Tao means the way, and Taoism says very interesting, powerful images. It says that each of us should be like a child held against its mother's chest. That is our relationship to the Tao, to reality itself. We are held by it, given everything we need by it, guided by it. So, what we need to do in order to participate in this way of living more thoroughly. Oh, sorry, this was a quote I missed. For Taoism, what you have to do is give up your opinions about things. And as I've been saying, so this is a Taoist teaching. In the pursuit of knowledge, every day something is added. In the pursuit of enlightenment, every day something is dropped. Okay, so we are to drop the obstruction in our consciousness. That's what Ernest is saying. What this article is about is things like big and little, difficult and easy, problem and no problem. They are weighing you down. And so he gave us an affirmation to actually work with this understanding. This is how we work in our teaching. We use affirmations, prayers. So if you'll read this with me. I am a center in the divine mind, a point of God-conscious life, truth, and action. My affairs are divinely guided and guarded into right action, into correct results. Everything I do, say, or think is stimulated by the truth. There is power in this word I speak. There is perfect and continuous right action in my life and my affairs. This spirit animates everything that I do, say, or think. Ideas come to me daily, and these ideas are divine ideas. They direct me and sustain me without effort. And together we can say, and so it is. Thank you.